filing and mailing have taken place on the 20th day of June 2014. Thank you everyone for coming, and can we please rise for a moment of silence and the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Moving on to discussion items. Do we have any discussion regarding any of our scheduling matters, official action agendas, or any amendments to the agenda?
Deputy Mayor, I would like to table consent agenda resolution 139-2014. I have not had the time to review this at all. We didn't get our packets till 9:30 this morning, and I was swamped at work, and I don't feel comfortable voting on it.
Would we be okay with maybe having Rob come up and explain everything and going over everything?
I mean, you know, I don't like to spend $40,000 without sleeping on it. It's not something I really want to do. It's up to the rest of the council, but I'm asking to table that.
Is there any rush on this? Is there? Oh,
can I? So I'm having a little difficulty here.
We don't have Tom to. I'm just playing solitaire. Is it working? Can you hear me now?
No.
All right, now we're recording.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Deputy Mayor, is if council does choose to table it, I still think with Rob here, we should still use the time productively and go, issue by issue.
Okay.
So Rob can cover, well, not, there are no issues that need to be answered, fine, but if there are, Rob can answer any questions that you have.
Okay. But is there any problem with us meeting payments or meeting deadlines or that kind of thing? That's what I just want to make sure that we're not.
Rob, do you see anything on the list of change orders that not wait till the July meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Turn on your microphone and discuss.
One of the items in this change order is adding a guardrail system at the top and bottom of the rooftop solar panels. And in order to get a final certificate of occupancy, we are going to need to get that work done.
Okay.
Would the contractor go ahead without the change order? I wouldn't want to speculate on that.
Okay. So
the rest of these items, or the majority of the remaining items, the work has actually already been done.
this is just the one outstanding thing that has not been done that we still need to get the final CO.
That and there's one to purchase a new flagpole rather than reuse the existing flagpole, the old flagpole.
And that was because it's just not in
because the old flagpole is not usable.
Okay.
Rob, I think what might be helpful for both council and the audience is if you could quickly go down the list and point out which items were required by the inspectors in order for us to get the TCO for the building. And then I guess also explain where we, or how, or why we got to the point that we were ready to move into the building and these things had to be taken care of then and not a long time ago.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're asking for. The first first of the contract change requests, construction change requests that fit into that category, Mr. Carew, is CCR 72, $796.02 for changes to a toilet room partition. This was an interpretive issue with the construction code official regarding accessibility of a toilet room. And it required a change in hardware in order to change a door swing in a toilet stall. And then there was an associated change with toilet room accessories, which is CCR 59 for $545.09. It required different toilet room accessories, specifically a mirror, to be purchased. And then there was another one associated with that, which was $1,014.47, CCR 92, to adjust the heights and locations of various toilet room accessories. These were hand dryers, paper towel dispensers, sanitary napkin dispensers. Again, these are interpretive issues. We went through 3 different building subcode officials between the time that the plans were originally reviewed, the time the construction permit was issued, the time when we were requesting a temporary certificate of occupancy for the building. Each of these construction officials look at these things in a slightly different light. I guess you could rhetorically ask the question, is it worth going back and appealing? And the answer, my rhetorical answer to that is no. You're in a position where you're trying to get a TCO in the building. You're trying to get the contractor to complete the work, and it's not a matter of a huge expense of money. It's a matter of satisfying a construction official who can take this issue and drag it out for 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. Then it starts to become an expensive issue.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've had the same experience building, the buildings I'm building for my business. And one official says one thing and another official says another thing. And you kind of are at the mercy of them. And unfortunately, I think it's the way the codes are written. And that's not something that I think we as township officials can do anything about. I think it's federal and state laws, and they can interpret it that way. So I understand, because I've been in your shoes. It's cost me lots of money.
Yeah, I appreciate that you appreciate that.
I do appreciate it. Believe me,
but it is and we, don't get me wrong, we were not treated unfairly by the construction officials on this project. They were put in a difficult position because it's unusual for a construction official to be reviewing, approving, and issuing certificates of occupancy for the building that he is ultimately going to be residing in. He would therefore, I would say, it's completely understandable that he errs completely on the side of conservatism. He's going to look at all of these things and say, I don't want there to be any doubt that I was giving any benefit of the doubt on any of these decisions, because people are going to look at it and there's a real potential for him to have a perceived conflict of interest. So I believe all of the construction officials dealt with this fairly, but they were extremely conservative in all of their decisions, and I can't blame them.
One of the issues that we had near the end being getting the TCO for the town hall side, was the attempt by our senior project team of Rob and Mike from Greyhawk, Rick and Dan from Reagan and myself, trying to get the inspectors to give us definitive lists in writing of what still needed to be done.
Awesome.
And I do believe, now that we've gone through this process with them, that for the most part, they did in fact give us that. But when you come back to inspect now what they've asked you to fix or to create, and they go, oh, I've noticed that as well. You can't question the interpretation. It's their interpretation. And it didn't seem to be a purposeful shot at the township to say, well, I'm going to hold back on this one and throw that card out at the next go round. If they catch something that they didn't catch the 50 opportunities before that, they still have caught something, so, and we have to make the change.
Rob, could I ask a question here?
Sure.
Is this on?
No, that's off now.
Yeah, it's on. Right. Okay.
That's fine.
Rob, the CCR 090, which is the biggest ticket,
Yes,
that was a code change in requirement during construction.
yes, this was yet another item where, if you recall, one of the very first CCRs that we had on the project was adding an additional level of fire-rated ceilings in one of the corridors and one of the stairwells, one of the two stairwells. This was work in that stairwell and the other, these are the back of the house stairwells in the building, where the construction official now had an opportunity to look at the finished product and came to the conclusion that there were some beams in the stairwell, exposed beams in the stairwell, that also needed to be fireproofed. So that required getting scaffold, erecting the scaffold, and then having the contractors work off of the scaffold. That work was monitored on a time materials basis. Therefore, to put these drywall enclosures around 3 beams at a height of about 18 feet above grade ended up at a cost of $18,000 and $18,008.57, which is practically paying close to $90 an hour for prevailing wage for a carpenter, a painter, and the trades to clean up. So this is one that is somewhat frustrating because had that been pointed out when the initial additional work was being done in the stair tower to put in a fire-rated ceiling, we wouldn't have had to have remobilized and put the scaffold in twice. But it is what it is. It wasn't pointed out at that time. It was pointed out during the final inspection.
If it gives any confidence in council, I attended many of those meetings myself, and actually I remember that discussion on CCR 32 for the modification of parapet wall, on other guardrails that were required, which was CCR 086, and I believe the additional flagpole, CCR 095. I'm fairly certain that this is a logical set of change orders and would agree with the Deputy Mayor that these are things that go on in a project which is $11.5 million. And Rob, what does this represent in regards to, just to somebody know off the top of their head, a percentage in relation to the change order value or the contingency?
Total change order value is now at 2.96% of the $11.3 million original contract amount. We had a contingency of 5% on the project for change orders, so as of this change order, we will have used 58.91% of that contingency.
And also, to answer your question, I think for this one, this specific change order is less than 4/10 of 1%.
That's correct. This is 0.38.
That was 4/10 of 1%. If you thought of an error rate regards to construction product, is pretty small.
Rob, if you can indulge me for one more minute. You brought up the idea of appealing an inspector's interpretation.
Yes.
Speaking in general terms, not in specific terms with this project, but in general terms, all the projects that you've been involved with, what are the potential pitfalls with appealing? What's the potential course of action if you do appeal something? That it's an interpretation, you think the interpretation's wrong, now you appeal it. How does that work, and what is your normal or average outcome?
The appeal process is that you apply to the Department of Community Affairs in Trenton, who is the overseeing body over each of the individual township construction officials. You wait a mandatory 30-day period for DCA to have a hearing on this, and then the DCA conducts their business and either decides in favor or not in favor. That's the cold clinical side of it. The emotional side of it is that when I've been involved in these, the victory is, I guess the term is Pyrrhic, because you win that battle, but you can lose a war with a construction official. Because construction officials don't like being questioned. I'm not saying this specifically about Morristown, I'm saying this about construction officials in general. It's a process where you don't want to get involved in something unless it's such a significant or egregious change that it's worth the fight. Because in the end, it has the potential of completely undermining the relationship with the construction official, which in the course of a project like this, you spent the better part of 18 months cultivating that relationship.
And if the inspector has asked you to do something that you feel is beyond what the code calls for,
Yes.
how does DCA normally handle something like that? Will they side with the inspector, or will they call it black and white and say, no, the code does not require this?
Well, again, so much of code is interpretive. So you'd like to separate this and make it a cold clinical process where people are seeing things in black and white. It's not a black and white process. There's a lot of gray in this. There's sufficient gray that when an architect looks at the plans and puts together the plans initially, he's seeing the code in a certain light. Greyhawk, as the construction consultant, is being asked to review those plans and specifications. We're not unfamiliar with the codes. We're looking at them and saying, okay, looks all right to me. But then somebody else, who ultimately holds the only trump card in this, because he's the person approving or not approving, looks at it and looks at it in a different light. So just the mere fact that it's interpretive opens you up to potential changes. Yeah, there's certainly a human side to this where, not everything that was brought up by the construction officials was, we just went, oh, okay, fine, let's do this. We sat down with the officials and had open dialogue with them, in some cases extremely frank dialogue with them. But we knew when they were right. It's kind of like arguing with an umpire. There's a line. You don't cross it unless you want to get thrown out of the game.
Thanks, Rob.
So we were talking about which ones of these were a result of TCO items. The service light at the top of the elevator shaft was one of those items. The guardrail system at the top and bottom of the solar panels. Modifications to the attic access ladder, because in order for the ladder to be considered safe enough for the construction official to go up that ladder to do an inspection of the attic, we had to make the changes to the ladder. The fire safety and the beam enclosures in stairwells ST1 and ST2, that was part of it. Revisions to handrails and wood trim in this building itself, in this room itself, in the council chambers. Those were also required in order to get a TCO. So I guess I've hit about 8 of the 10 items on here.
And, I mean, are any of these you would consider to be, and I hate to point fingers, especially when people aren't here, but are any of these design failures that are egregious, that should have been picked up long ago, not necessarily by the inspectors, but by our own design team?
No.
If I could address that, wasn't the typical, is it on? Wasn't the typical process where there was a review of the plans, was it brought forward, after the review of the plans were brought forward, the code official did review that. When the construction came forward, wasn't the construction then reviewed as it was going, and those changes were resolved as the construction was completed? Was that not the process?
Yes.
So in that process, a certain amount of adjustment becomes available, and these are what the change orders are. Again, what I said before, that relates to the amount of change orders versus the value of the job is something that everybody sees as a criteria. And the amount of change orders in this job have been very low. And this group of things, as I said, I attended several of those, many of those meetings actually. Mr. Pruitt attests to that. I think it's valid to go through it.
Okay, so, you still want to table it?
You know, I don't at all object to these particular change orders. That wasn't the issue. It's just a matter of, you know, time to review. And we've had some discussion here, and that's fine. We can leave it on. I think this is symptomatic of maybe a larger issue. We had talked probably a year ago about getting our agendas and our packets together much further in advance of meetings than we have been. You know, so and now as a result of a technical problem on Friday, we didn't have the agendas until today. I work from 9 to 5:30. I did not have the time to properly review this week's agenda, you know, in a way that makes me feel comfortable making, you know, decisions. So I think we really need to look into nailing down our agendas and getting our packets much earlier, maybe at least by Wednesday of the previous week. And with the understanding that last minute things will rise, we can always amend it, but this last minute, you know, this is the consequence of doing it last minute.
Is there a way that we can get the agendas maybe Wednesday or Thursday, but not go out to the public yet?
Well-
Until it's pretty much set by Friday?
Yeah, typically the way the process has been working is Karen puts the agendas together. And Mr. Dross will attest to the fact that she is real tough on making sure everything gets in on time. So between her, Patty, myself, and then once the three of us are comfortable with what we believe needs to be on the agenda, we bounce it off the mayor to make sure that we're not missing anything. Once that review's been done, and which is usually we try to have by Thursday, then Karen sends it out. She tries to get the agenda and the packs out on Thursday because she publishes everything to the public on Friday. To have it go a day in advance is certainly not a problem, but in this specific circumstance, as Victoria pointed out, this was a technical issue, not an administrative issue, in that you know, we're still working through a lot of kinks with, you know, technical aspects of the building, the HVAC, the door locks, you know, how the magnetic door locks work every time the power goes out, which seems like we had quite a few storms in the last month. We're still working through those processes. From, like I said, from an administrative standpoint, it shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. This is more of a technical hiccup that I don't anticipate happening. You know, this type of thing only every once in a long while.
I would support.
Anticipate these things.
No.
That's why we need to
Yeah,
work on that.
I'm going to echo Victoria's concern here, because it's been a thorn in my side since I got on council. It's just, you know, I would like to get the packets, you know, Wednesday or Thursday morning at the earliest, because you have questions, you know, we have to talk to staff. We get them on Friday, even Friday morning. It is, you know, we're busy. You know, by the time we get around to reviewing it, it's 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon. It's on Friday. I mean, it just needs to be moved up a day.
Okay.
I agree.
I would echo Victoria's concern. I have not had email in, I think it's 10 days now from the town. I've asked a couple of people to help me with that, and I try to be, you know, a person that works through that. I've had to get this information another way, and I would agree with you, Victoria. We need to improve the process.
All right.
Okay.
Gotcha. Marching orders. All right, so then do you want to amend the agenda, or do you still want to table that resolution with maybe keeping the one that needs to be done? Or do you want to go forward?
Let's move forward.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up the process. It's just, you know.
All right.
I am so
It's
sorry.
all this talk in the future.
I have an amendment of if it's possible, and Mr. Pruitt and Ms. Hunt will have to tell me whether it is. We had differing amounts of information at different points over the weekend of the Hoosier Train contract that we have discussed several times. I do not know if it can be put out back in the agenda. The last iteration of the contract was today, again, contract, in fact, is not on the agenda, but I don't know it. And it has things like, for instance, in this iteration, includes 20% discount on the refrigerant as well as the parts and supplies that we've negotiated over this time. Please tell me if it can be put in the agenda.
I think from a technical standpoint, the agenda can be amended. The problem is, based on the discussion we just had 2 minutes ago, no one else council has looked at this, so this sort of makes the lead time that you guys had with the other issue look like a year and a day versus literally, here it is, let's vote on it, so.
Then, in that case, Mr. Crew, you would touch base with Mr. Reagan, because the contractor said there has to be a first process in this PM that has to be done. And he says if he has another contract, the contract signed by July 1st, he cannot do that. So if you would make the magic happen, maybe asking him to wait until our next meeting, but
I was making a suggestion, but like I said, I believe you can amend the contract, the agenda to add the contract. It's really up to the comfort level
This
you and
was-
your fellow councilors.
This was something we've been discussing for a while,
it's been on the agenda for a while.
and we took it off because you wanted to
Exactly.
keep
And
them up
we've got
somewhere.
all of the things that, and I'm not going to list them for the sake of time, but there's all of the things that we wanted in the amending of this contract, which are very, very good. 1 hour travel time, 2 hours response to emergency call. I mean, it's.
So just let me get this straight. We got this over the weekend. You
We got it today.
We got it today
See,
with a 1 week, with
Well, this
a 1
was,
week deadline.
we actually had it as a
Yeah,
resolution.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and
That
we
is
tabled it
correct.
because
You got
Greg
it.
asked if he
That
could.
is correct. We
So
got
the
it
long
today.
story short is we got stuff today with the July 1st deadline, which is before our next meeting.
Right, correct.
And it's because Greg took care of getting some.
Well, it was a negotiation process.
And we were all in that, Rick Reagan, myself, several people, Sandy as well.
The pleasure of the board, what would you like to do?
Asked to amend the agenda.
As to
What's,
agenda,
I
What's
asked
the
the
bottom
process
line?
would be to amend the agenda. I asked the process.
what would you?
how's it affect the bottom line? What's,
Make a motion to amend the agenda to include resolution number 145, which would be approving the tours or train. That motion has to pass unanimously.
Okay.
In order to amend the agenda.
And the financial impact is the customer agrees to pay $15,000 annually for 10 years, payable semi-annual installments of $7,500. But this is now negotiated with all the criteria that I asked them, in my words, which to sharpen the pencil for.
So the amount has not changed, it's just the parameters of it, the provisions.
Correct, the conditions. They will provide
Which will
insurance
be in our favor.
all in our favor, correct.
So do I hear a motion to amend to add resolution 145?
So move.
Second? All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay.
I'm sorry, who said that?
did.
Thank you. I promise not to.
Any more amendments to the agenda?
I may have one pending our discussions on the outstanding appointments.
Okay.
So when we get down to that, I'll probably.
All right, well, let's move forward with reports from members. Mr. Newcomer.
I wanted to share kind of sad news. Barbara Rich, a longtime member of this town and community and contributor to the community, was involved in a head-on accident after coming back from a meeting of the Burlington County Freeholders. And she is in a local rehab at this point. She's out of the hospital, thank God, but she was involved in local rehab. And I would ask you to keep her in your thoughts and prayers.
Greg, I'm sorry, if I just could just jump in right there, just to really help people understand how dedicated Barbara is to her volunteerism. So her granddaughter came to see us the day after the accident with Barbara's tablet to see if John Polkowitz could set up her a township email account so she could still do her township work while in the hospital.
She's amazing. She's definitely a special person from our town.
In relation, comments also, I have some relation to Sustainable Morristown, but perhaps I see Kathy Ward, who's one of the chairs in the audience, maybe she would share some of them, and I would like to make any more comments on that. And that's all I have right now.
Okay, Mr. Garland.
Nothing to report.
Well, I just wanted to share that last week, as you may know, the Special Olympics torch run came through Morristown. It was a great event. Karen Daly did a fantastic job pulling it together at the last minute. It was very inspiring to be there. The athletes and the law enforcement officers who run with them were all so incredibly thrilled to be there, and it was really a pleasure to be able to be there.
I was going to echo your thoughts. We had a very nice event right in front of the library, and it was all the township employees were there, and it really was a wonderful time. Police department participated, and great seeing the athletes running with the torch. So it was special too. It did not stop in every town. It stopped only in a few towns, and Morristown was picked. So that was a wonderful event. Just a couple of things. We had a tree committee meeting last week. And the tree committee is applying for a grant for 10 to 15 trees. It's a statewide, countywide grant, and we're applying for a grant to plant trees on the corner of Bridgeboro and Westfield, where it's actually high school property, but we thought that corner needed some more trees over there, and to put 10, 15 of them, that was a big enough space to do that. And the Board of Ed has graciously accepted that, so hopefully we'll in the fall know that we'll have those 10 to 15 trees. We've applied for it, and hopefully we'll keep your fingers crossed we get them. And then last is just there's an EDAC meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and it will be here in Town Hall chambers for the first time in I don't know how long. All right, moving on. Upcoming meetings or any scheduling items? Anyone want to comment? Upcoming meetings will be here at 111 West 2nd Street in Council Chambers. July 7th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. will be an official action, and July 21st, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. will be an official action. And I do have an agenda update. I wanted to see if we can have a motion to amend to continue Resolution 143 to the next meeting. 143 is authorizing the Township of Morristown to grant temporary right of access to municipal property to Orleans Home Builders for purposes of installing a monument sign. And that was just because we did not get all the paperwork in time.
That was a motion.
A motion to postpone that.
We just did that. That was the motion. That I seconded.
Stacy was asking for the motion.
Yeah,
You so moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And if I could just point out, Deputy Mayor, that with all the previous discussion tonight about getting stuff at the last minute, this was them, not us.
Could I ask if this has been through the appearance committee this time? It's been to the appearance committee, because I don't remember, I think I've attended most of the appearance committee. I don't remember being there. Has it been to the appearance committee?
As far as I know, it has not, but it may have been through their zoning board process, but I don't participate.
We're told that.
You could do it.
We were told by the developer that this particular sign, and we have a schematic drawing that was approved by the planning board when they obtained site plan approval.
Well, then maybe it has.
So for that, it probably has their approval.
I would just venture to say it's a matter of process. If the board has approved it, it doesn't need to go back to the appearance committee. I think if the zoning board goes ahead and approves it, the planning board approves it as is.
It actually goes to the appearance committee before.
It should,
Yes,
yeah.
correct.
So I don't think you should have to go back.
No.
Okay, then moving on, I just needed a motion to adopt the consent agenda resolution
As amended.
I would like
as amended.
to pull 117 for discussion, if you could.
Okay,
Are you saying that you want to discuss it ahead of time, or you want to?
Just pull it out as consent.
oh, and then,
Then
Got
that's, got it.
all right, so we'll pull it out of the consent and we'll discuss it by itself. Got it. All right, so I need a motion to do that?
A motion to adopt as amended the consent agenda.
Second?
we pulled number 117 for discussion after consent. We've tabled 143, which is the Orleans sign, and we've added 145,
Right, just thought.
which is the Tozer train contract.
So we're clear, thank you.
Okay. All right, moving into our informal discussions. Mr. Manager.
There are some appointment discussions. I thought I was going to have one to discuss tonight, but as of the beginning of this meeting, there was no confirmation that the new appointment needed to be made just yet, and I find it's a little premature to discuss something that, even though we're all fairly confident it's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet. So we do have a plan B in place for that to hold us over into the next meeting, but I believe Patty also has a couple board and committee appointments to discuss.
I provided council with a memo regarding outstanding appointments. Parents, we need 2 appointments, tree planting, 1 appointment, zoning, 1 appointment, and the recreation student members are expiring on 6/30.
Any names that anyone wants to put forward right now?
I don't know if this is germane at this time, but I was talked to by the chair, Mr. Homer of Recreation, who said that we might expand the idea of having juniors, might have sophomores as well there.
Give a little bit more.
Right, and it would be interesting to have suggestions for that. This might give them
I know, that, and that's a good idea, but that may require amending the will.
right, that's why I brought it up, as to
Yeah.
what the process.
So that would be, that's an ordinance, or is, that's an ordinance, isn't it? Yeah, so we
We'd have to look at that. Could you
August.
look into that for us?
That was correct. Correct.
Yes, yeah, right, to include sophomores as well as juniors.
Thank you.
There would be juniors and seniors then. Would they be current sophomores going to be juniors? And current
Can somebody
juniors?
put something in writing and you know, information?
Yeah, I'll do that, I'm a recreation guy, so I'll do that.
Specifically.
Maybe I'll get your help with this.
All right, any other? I think we had a name of, I wanted to put a name for Dick Cord for zoning board.
I'll second that.
I mean, so if we can, any discussion on that? I know,
Actually, I was gonna discuss that too.
go for it.
No, well, actually, can we just amend the,
No, I think we just put the names out and then for the next, it'll be on the next.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct? And then I did have another name that I wanted to throw out there for the tree committee, which was Dave Daly. And then if anybody has anything else, next meeting, bring them up.
Does council approve the resolution, right?
All right.
A couple of things, Mayor, for the workshop discussion. More as an FYI than really anything. Talked to Joe Galbraith today. He was pretty confident that the library move would be complete by the end of this week. Furniture, I guess, was begun delivered today. The back room office furniture. The books are all on shelves. The library looks fantastic. And essentially what it's going to boil down to is, once again, when we get to TCO, in terms of when the library will be open. What we did discuss, and I know Stacy, you and I have discussed it, and I don't know that we've yet discussed it at a council meeting, but considering 2 major realities with a new town hall library in Morristown in the middle of June. One, end of June. One, as we are experiencing now, we're working out a lot of kinks. And 2, this is Morristown, is evidenced by the audience tonight. Summertimes, the town can become a little less crowded. So what we discussed was getting through the summer, and sometime shortly after Labor Day, having our sort of grand opening ceremony to memorialize, and celebrate being in the new building. By then, everything should be running smoothly, and hopefully we'd have somewhat of a larger crowd. So, unless councils,
When was that? I'm sorry.
sometime shortly after Labor Day.
When back to town.
I love that idea. We'll get it done well.
Well, I think you're right. We'll work out all those kinks. We want to make sure everything's running smoothly, and then we'll have the big kickoff when basically the school year starts and all the kids are back, especially since the library is used by many of our children. I think that'd be a great thing. So we'll start working on that. Maybe we'll put Karen in charge of that. She does a great job with the torch run. We can put her in charge of that.
But I do want to also give kudos to the library staff who, I think there are maybe some people, general public, that thought maybe the library staff had a couple of weeks off between the close and the opening. And as a group of people that have worked so hard over the last couple of weeks, I can't describe how hard they've been working alongside the movers to get the books on the shelves in the right spot and get that building ready. I think Rob's seen that as well.
I wanted to make one comment. It's a site comment regarding the library, and I've talked to Rob actually a couple of times about it. And this one light left out in the parking lot that hasn't worked in, how long has it run? I think it's 3 weeks.
I was going to say a month.
Yeah, it's a month, and we need to make sure that gets done. I think it's the subcontractor.
I'm sure this is not just an energy saver light. Very dim.
Whatever it is, let's get it done.
I will put it at the top of the agenda for tomorrow morning's meeting with the
Thank
contractor.
you, that'd be great.
Well, Mr. Bruce, since we're talking site work, you know where I'm going with this. When are we going to get a report on the lovely facade we have across the way here?
Now.
We discussed, we began discussing that sort of in an impromptu way last meeting. I'll have to circle back with Rick. I mean, I think I'm ready to discuss it, and I don't think I've made my feelings about it a secret to anyone.
Really?
But Rick is the professional in this, and I think that he would absolutely be required to participate in that
Will
discussion.
he be here?
If that's what council would like. I don't know what his vacation schedule is this summer, but yes, it's
Well, I want to keep it on the front burner for sure.
certainly. I mean, if it is ultimately decided by council to take that building down, then the sooner we get done with this complex, being how long it's been since the project started, basically with the fire, it'd be nice to get it over by the end of this year.
Agreed.
That's great.
And with that, we've already put in the budget of money to not disassemble, to
Demolish.
Thank you. That building, yes. Correct?
Well, it's in the capital budget plan, so the money's in the budget for the down payment. Probably then one of the 2 meetings in July is we'll have Tom prepare the bond ordinances for everything that was on that list, separate them out in case council wants to pull anything. But yes, that was it was $280,000 or $300,000 for that.
And I think it would be a good process for Mr. Reagan to come in and give the reasons, give a refresher,
That was a
and have
great.
people comment in regards to what that is. I agree, I am also at the point where we should move forward.
Sure. I mean, and Rob's looked at the issue extensively too. We all trust Rob's expertise. I mean, the building, and we heard this at the last meeting about using an asset, that we already have. And the problem is, any use other than a library would constitute a change in use, which would immediately trigger all the code deficiencies that exist in that building would then become necessary to bring up the code. And we're looking, I think with the professionals, we're looking at $3-4 million just to get up to code. That doesn't include repurposing the building now for any other potential use. So essentially what it boils down to is, at the $220 a square foot it costs to build this building, you're probably better off if you wanted to build anything there, if you wanted to have a structure on that site, which of course that decision hasn't been made either. But if you wanted to, it would probably be cheaper to have a new building built to suit than a 37,000 square foot bunker.
Well, and the other thing is any use of that building as it sits, which would be so large, would be a brief increase in traffic in there.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't need to increase the traffic in there.
All right, so we'll get it on the agenda sometime in July.
Yeah, I'll just check, see what Rick's, you know, which meetings Rick.
Yeah, whatever maybe was a little later or whatever. Yeah, so,
Okay, any more workshop? Good?
I think that's it for tonight.
Okay.
I'll read that.
Moving on to presentations and proclamations, we just had one proclamation, which I was allowed to read at the torch run, and that was for the Special Olympics, and that was a great day, again, like I said. I'm not going to reread that, but it was a really nice proclamation for the Special Olympics. Moving on, residents' requests and presentations, and that's for items that are not listed on the agenda.
Good evening, Monique Begg, 209 Parry Drive. I have a question regarding the traffic pattern in the parking lot. If I understand it correctly, I just want to make sure that I'm not reading the signs incorrectly. As I enter the parking lot from 2nd Street, I cannot go through into the parking lot directly behind the rec center. Am I correct?
Once the parking lot's complete, and that's another reason why we moved the process of making the decision with the old library forward, is you can notice when you go outside, the parking lot directly in front of the town hall is complete, as is the parking lot around the new library and the parking lot around the rec center. The parking lot next to the old library has not been finished for the sole reason that if we're bringing in construction equipment at some point in the very near future to take down that building, you don't want to upset or destroy the work that's done. So I'm going to answer your question as if the parking lot was all complete, because since it's not complete, it's hard to say what we're asking people to do. Once the parking lot's complete, what the plan calls for, as you come on 2nd, you have to stay to the right.
Right.
And go around. You can, once you pass the first half, I'll call it, of the parking lot, turn and go into the rec center. And you can also turn around. So the only thing that you're really not supposed to do coming in off 2nd is go immediately to the left. But after you go around the first section, almost like the opposite of a figure 8, you can go into the rec center.
Okay. It's not a problem to me, but I just was wondering about disabled people, you know, walking to that rec center from the parking lots, the designated parking spaces, you know.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other presentations?
Thank you, Mrs. Begg. You know, Mrs. Begg helped sponsor 10 children for the More Kids program for recreation.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, ordinances for 2nd reading, we have none. Ordinance for 1st reading, Mr. Manager.
I'm going to make sure I'm reading the correct one here. I think I have the correct one. It's 3-2014, an ordinance of the Township of Morristown conveying an easement in municipal property identified as Block 7401, Lot 3, for the installation of utilities to facilitate construction on property located at Block 7402, Lot 1 in Lockheed Martin. In council, this is a request from the U.S. Naval NAVFAC CSED construction project, and it's required for them to move forward with the project. They need to get Verizon connected, and it's in our right-of-way.
Okay.
And this is one that they gave to us in the last 2 weeks, and of course
Needs to be done
needs to
yesterday.
be done yesterday.
Go on.
Have a motion to adopt on 1st reading and set the public hearing date for July 7th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Victoria. Yes.
Mr. Garwood,
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano,
Yes.
Deputy Director Jordan.
Yes. All right, and then we have, resolution?
Actually, we have a
Public hearing, I'm sorry, public hearing.
130-2014.
Okay. Would you like to read that for us?
Yes, that resolution was authorizing funding in the amount of $66,330 from Morristown Open Space Recreation, Farmland, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund to be used for repair of various dams along Strawbridge Lake. And just to remind everybody, this was for the additional money that we found out at the last council meeting was required to get this project completed.
Okay, I'd like to open this up for public hearing. Any public comment? Okay, may I have a, oh, sorry. It's not like it used to be, it was real fast. Okay.
Good evening. Edwin Begg, 209 Perry Drive. Question, can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
We can hear you.
I can't reciprocate in that observation. I still think there's something wrong with sound transmission, communication. Some people clearly clears a bell. In others, I really have to strain. And I know I talked about this last meeting. So if there's some way to adjust the gain up for everybody, that'd be one help. Two, everybody most likely watches television at one time or another. And I'm making the observation, if I can hear a report of some reporter in the middle of the night from Baghdad, 10, 15,000 miles away, I should be able to hear my government 75, 100 feet away.
This is a public hearing though for the money for.
I know, but I want to get this out. So you haven't solved the problem yet.
We'll make sure that gets looked at again.
Part of it, one further consideration, you almost need
Mr. Begg, can you bring that,
binoculars to see people in the audience.
can we bring this
You
up?
should move up.
I need you to bring this up at a different portion of the meeting. This is just the public.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We can go that with our public comments, but we just need to do this as the public hearing.
I have really not a comment, but a question. 130, I assume, is also connected to 131.
On the consent.
Correct.
Is it inclusive or exclusive? Is the total dam repair $338,000,
Yes,
or is
that-
it $405,000?
No, the total amount of the contract for office construction is $338,230.
Is there some way how that arithmetic was broken out then, as to what would be open space funds as opposed to other township funds?
As far as I remember, there's never been a discussion of using anything other than open space funds to fix the dams.
It's all open space funds.
Well, maybe I don't understand what 131 is.
What it is 131, right, let's back up. Last year when council approved this project, they passed a bond ordinance for $275,000, I believe it was. $300,000, based on the engineer's estimate at the time. At the time, council said that they would pay off the debt of that bond ordinance with the open space fund. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, when the bids finally come in for this project, and the low bid was $338,230. There's also an additional roughly $25,000 that go into engineering and attorney fees, and that's where the $300,000 needs to be added, $66,330. What 130 is a vote by council to, instead of amending the original bond ordinance, which takes time to do, Mr. Michelle at the last meeting reported that the fund is healthy enough to just take all $66,000 and not amend the bond ordinance so it's rolled into the bond. So the $66,000 will be paid immediately, and you'll still have the debt service on the original $300,000.
One of the two is missing something. Then why doesn't 130, why isn't that number 338,230? Unless I missed what you just said.
We've already done a bond ordinance for
The
300
town already has $300,000
bonded already.
bonded.
You said, I thought 200.
300. I said 275, Patty corrected me, it was 300,000.
Okay. All right, so this is just about.
Yes.
You answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Nays? Okay, passes. Any discussion by council? Or can I have a motion to adopt resolution 130-2014?
Yeah, I just want to add that subsequent to our last meeting, I did bring this topic up with the Open Space Advisory Committee. It was just the day after, and they felt comfortable with it. Everyone seemed to agree this is a necessary expenditure. I'm sure they would, of course it's their prerogative to they want to preserve the fund as much as possible. They're always reticent to spend anything, really. But it was definitely an agreement that we should be spending this money out of this fund that's appropriate, and that we should be doing this extra 66 right now as a whole sum rather than amending the bond ordinance, which actually will save the fund almost $10,000 over the life of the bond if we don't finance it and we pay it up front now. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to do this. Those dams have really been affected by the storms.
Okay, well then, how do we call roll call?
I didn't have that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Now can you call roll?
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mr. Colangelo?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to consent agenda resolutions.
Okay, so just to confirm, we have pulled 117 for discussion after the consent agenda. We have tabled 143, and we've added 145. And when I get there, Patty, you're going to have to help me with the exact language of that title. So I'll start with 131-2014, awarding a contract to Loftus Construction, Inc., in the amount of $338,230 for repairs to the Hootens Creek Dam, Lower Hootens Creek Dam, and Morristown Dam located at Strawbridge Lake. 132-2014, authorizing renewal of plenary retail consumption licenses for 2014-2015. 133-2014, accepting the resignation of George Williams from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. 134-2014, accepting the resignation of Sonia Pound from the Appearance Committee. 135-2014, awarding a contract to SpectraServe for removal and disposal of contents of the wastewater treatment plant secondary digester in the amount of $120,000. 136-2014, a resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Morristown to permit the issuance of one new plenary retail consumption license by the historical method within the Township of Morristown in setting forth the criteria for applications for such license. 137-2014, rejecting all bids for rainwater harvesting system. 138-2014, authorizing the cancellation of certain water and sewer charges. 139-2014, authorizing contract change order number 9 for the Town Hall Library project in the amount of $43,652.75. 140-2014, authorizing the submission of a grant application to the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the 2014 funding for the Transportation Alternative Program, otherwise known as TAP. 141-2014, authorizing submission of the grant application to the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the 2014 Safe Routes to School program. 142-2014, making various appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. 144-2014, resolution authorizing entry upon drainage easement area located on block 6,000, lots 38 for purposes of cleaning debris from easement area. And 145-2014, Patty, what's the exact job or the resolution title?
It may vary a little, but basically, resolution authorizing the Township of Morristown to enter into an agreement with Louisville Train for $15,050 annually for a period of 10 years.
Okay. I'd like to open the floor for public comment.
Elmbeg, 209 Prairie Drive. Since 15 to 20 minutes was spent on number 139, confirms in my experience over the years in going up to Main Street and having a bite to eat or a cup of coffee or whatever at various establishments up and down Main Street. And I've now come across the third business owner who, you know, how are things going or whatever, and they don't speak directly, you know, can't blame them, but you now experience what several businessmen, or three in this case, my case, have experienced with the frustration of Morristown giving the firm, solid impression that we don't want you. And to make sure you understand that, we are going to make your life pretty hard before we give you an approval.
Mr. I just want to let you know that I don't think it's Morristown that doesn't. It's we, like you said when we heard the discussion earlier, we're at the mercy of the inspectors, and that's the Uniform Construction Code. That's what we're at the mercy of. It's not anything Morristown puts out there. It's code that has to be followed by every municipality, and I can assure you that every municipality goes through these things. I can tell you for one thing, in 3 different municipalities that my businesses are in, we go through the same exact thing. I wish there was a way we could deal with it. I think it has to come from the legislature, and that's something that we need to maybe discuss with our legislators and our senators.
My point is not to disagree with you, but
Yeah.
in all 3 cases, these were businesses associated with more than one physical location.
Right.
So we're not talking about it, but in the expected funds for that additional liquor license, and you know, what are you going to do with all the money? Don't spend it all at once on cutting taxes. Again, consider as a council how we are going to encourage business development in downtown Main Street, Morristown. And one area of investigation that really does need investigation is the approval process and the whole schmear from start to finish. There are things that are obviously wrong, things that can be changed and improved on, for what it's worth.
No, and thank you for that. I'll let you know too that EDAC, this council has asked our EDAC committee to go over those rules and regulations and the different processes to see what can be streamlined, what can be helpful, and what's not being helpful. So,
maybe you might consider spending a couple bucks and get it done.
we'll
Because
work on
it
it.
hasn't been done.
EDAC is working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, Steve Solomon, 669 Garwood. On 142, are you going to be making a selection today?
We did appoint, we, as a council, asked Mr. Corey to be on there.
Okay, so that's in the
That'll be for next, that'll be on the agenda for next.
Yeah, that was a resolution to make someone yes.
You weren't paying attention.
Sorry.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right, then, council?
I just have one comment regarding 134-2.14. The town will miss Sonia Pound as the chair of the appearance committee. She was organized, efficient, and effective. Excellent chair.
She's moving to Florida, I believe, right?
She's moving to Florida. We've lost her to Florida. She says she's coming back in the fall, but Maybe we can get her to do something then.
All right.
Is Neil Johnson the chair again?
Neil Johnson was elected chair at the last meeting, correct?
Thank you. All right, well, council, then, and I just wanted to add just one little comment about the grants that we've applied for. Just know that Mayor Fiacchio has contacted the Bridge Commission, asking them for some grants for Livermore Town Center in conjunction with Victoria to get some curbing improvements, maybe some bus transportation.
All manner of things.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things, but I just wanted to let the rest of council know that when these grants came up, I just wanted to let you know that Chris did send out that letter, and hopefully we'll be getting some help from the Bridge Commission to help us make those things a reality. Okay. All right, well then, council, can I have a motion to adopt our consent agenda resolution as amended?
So, second.
Second.
You moved, I second.
Okay.
I think this lights.
All right, that was a motion to adopt the resolutions on the agenda.
As
As
amended.
amended.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mr. Napolitano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Yes. Okay, now we will do agenda resolution 117-2014.
And that is approving contract amendment number 3 in the amount of $18,000 with Greyhawk Construction, managers and consultants for the municipal building library construction project. And essentially, and Rob can correct me if I'm wrong, what this boils down to is, as it points out in the title, the third amendment to the contract, and the other two amendments, as with this one, is really boils down to a slight change in the schedule in terms of getting the project done. Although we were in town hall in time, you're going back to when the current contract was created. I guess the monthly cost of having Greyhawk on site managing the day-to-day operations of the project ran out, and as we all know, we're still working out kinks. We're still not in the library yet, and we still need to get the CO for the entire building. So, Rob, if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to jump in.
Only, I guess, a clarification. The first amendment to our contract was a request to add scope of service to provide 2 construction cost estimates. So that had nothing to do with schedule. It was basically just a pass-through cost of a sub-consultant through Greyhawk's contract to provide cost estimates during the design phase. So that was the original $31,000 amendment to our contract. The second one was reflective of a 2-month delay in getting the project going from the time we mobilized to the time we were able to actually pull a construction permit, plus another month because our contract was set at a 14-month rather than the contractor schedule of 15 months. And then this third one, as you said, has basically been to provide service through the month, through this month, as we've been working with the library on the move, and also working with town hall staff and the contractor on taking care of punch list items and working through some just, I guess, general move-in issues with the new building.
I guess my question would be is, what was your end time for your contract? We don't even have a temporary CO for the library yet. We are having to put out more money that you guys to stay on to get the temporary CO. Was not your contract to completion of that and to get the temporary CO?
Our contract was a term contract with a number of months of service. There was a 1-month closeout period at the end of that contract. We have basically gotten to a point where, in order to maintain the level of service, we needed the contract amendment. Otherwise, funding had run out, so I'm not sure if I've answered your question or
So
obscured your
it
question.
was a time contract, not a goal-driven contract?
Yes, it was a month-to-month contract.
Month to month, and we were running over because the library is dragging on a little longer than expected.
This final, I guess, month is due, among other reasons, but primarily because the furniture contract was not ready, something beyond Red Hawk's control, and the move-in of the library was supposed to take place right after the move-in to this side of the building. That didn't take place there was about a 3-week period where nothing was being done in the library because of issues with a furniture order, trying to get the mover in place because of that.
Are they different, there were different contractors for the furniture, for the township and for the library?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Right, yeah, the library furniture contract, as we discussed, fortunately was paid for by the Friends of the Library, so they put up $250,000. As they were paying for it, the library staff, director, went through their own interview process like Mr. Michelle and I did on the town hall side. We picked different furniture vendors. We were very happy with ours. They happen to live in town. Everything worked great. And, it's just didn't work out as cleanly with the library side.
Rob, a couple of things. The language of the last paragraph on the letter from May 29th, which I believe is germane to this resolution. We propose billing our time during June at our originally contracted rate of 120 per hour, or 40 hours per week. After June 14th, we'll reduce Mike to a part-time basis, billing at the same rate. My time for June will be billed at the same rate, $125 an hour. I'm just stating I'll be involved for about 10 hours per week. So if we stop right there, we just started to talk in relation to going through to Labor Day. So I'm wondering.
Not with me.
Okay, so when's Mike's end time and when's your end time according to this $18,000? How does it? What's the critical path from now until the end?
We're planning on pulling Mike off-site the end of this week. I'm going to continue to come back on an as-needed basis as we work with the construction official to get the TCO and then the final certificate of occupancy. Mike has actually he's been off for 3 days out of the last 5. Just for vacation purposes. So we've already basically got him back to a part-time billing or a part-time attendance at this point.
So we're coming in well below that 18,000. This 18,000 is a maximum that we would
What are
have.
we paying for?
You're paying for full-time service for the first 2 weeks of June, and then beyond that point, we're going to accrue at the rate that we put into that letter, which is the original hourly rate in the contract, and we will not exceed $18,000.
Okay. So it's a budgeted schedule of $18,000, which may not all be used.
Correct.
Okay.
And if the HVAC system starts cooperating, we should be okay.
Well, now that we have 2-year training, that should be no problem.
Actually, the new compressor, there's a replacement compressor for that Mitsubishi unit. What they found out, and I just got an email as we were sitting here. Not that I'm not riveted by all the other conversation.
Is that sarcasm?
Well, I never.
But the compressor in the unit number 1, the Mitsubishi unit, was inadvertently grounded. That caused a problem with the unit. The replacement compressor is supposed to arrive here on Thursday morning. Should be replaced that day.
Rob, when will the final documents and the delivery of the buildings be done?
The final documents, meaning the operations and maintenance manuals, as-built documents.
Those same documents.
those documents in the next week. I've been banging the table with the contractor for about the past 3 weeks, reminding him of the importance of getting that, because and it's to everybody's benefit that those documents come in, because until that happens, the contractor himself is going to continue to field calls that in fact should be going directly to a subcontractor from the township. But right now I'm telling Mr. Carew, Mr. Michelle, and anybody else in the building, if they have a problem, call Sandy, because they haven't provided the O&M manuals, which basically act as a roadmap to the owner to who to turn to for any type of issues with any of the systems within the building.
And where will those O&M manuals reside?
There'll be one, the contractor owes 3 sets. One set will reside in this building, I imagine in the mechanical room, or actually, I'm sorry, in Patty's office. The one set is going to be at Public Works, and the 3rd set is up to the township as to where they want to keep them.
Will you have one?
Yes.
Good. I don't have any more questions.
Any more discussion on that?
Well, I just have one comment. You know, first off, Rob, I think you guys have done a bang-up job. I can't thank you enough, and I'm sure the town thanks you. You know, job well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, ever since we tabled this from the beginning, it just hasn't set well with me. You know, we're basically paying for a library delay, and that's where my little beef is here. I just don't think that we should be catching 100% of this. If it's a library delay, I think they should get an appropriate proportion of it.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I tend to agree with Phil. You know, we had our ducks in a row and not in on time. We didn't cause any delays. It is frustrating to be picking up the tab for someone else's mistake.
We have a library board meeting Wednesday night, and I can certainly bring this idea to them. And I'm going to, we talked a lot about interpretation tonight, so I'm going to interpret what you said, that it sounds like you're okay with the amended contract. You would just like the library to take their fair share of the cost. 50%?
51. No.
I'll start at 75.
Negotiate.
76.
Do some negotiating skills. Okay.
Yeah, you know, I just think, you know, that would be the prudent thing to do, rather than have the taxpayers pick up for their mistake.
And it was their mistake.
All right.
Okay.
So do we want to table this for July 7th?
I don't think we can table it. I think it needs to be, I think it's a bill that needs to be paid. I think that's an issue I think we have with the library board. If I'm.
Right, yeah, and what I would suggest, if there is pushback on Wednesday night, there are ways and means for the township to address that going forward, particularly during budget time for the next budget cycle. Remember, we provide 90% of the library's funding. There is a certain amount of leverage that the township holds here.
What is required to move this forward?
I just need a motion to adopt.
I'd like to get something firm from the library right off on the board.
Anybody else? So, just a question for you. If the library decides not to, we go into, Grayhawk is going to be out this money that they've already done. And I just, as you know, in good faith, I don't think believe me, I'm the last person who wants to spend the money.
Yeah.
But I think Grayhawk has proven their worth in what they've done by getting this building done, particularly, you know, on time for us, town hall.
Right.
With change orders that are well below, I think, industry standard.
Yeah, I can agree.
So I have a hard time punishing Grayhawk for something that's a township. I don't want to say not a township, but a library deficiency. You know, we all love the library. We're all excited about the library. We're all happy, but there are things that happen that made it kind of drag out. but I don't know that that's necessarily a reason to hold Greyhawk, to punish them for that. That's just my.
Well, and I think that that's the question that I guess it boils down to is, what if the library board says no?
Exactly. Then we're here we are footing the bill for somebody's mistake. And I feel bad. It just hasn't sat right with me since the very get-go. And, I mean, as we say, Greyhawk has been fantastic, without a doubt. But I just think that there needs to be some sort of accountability.
Well, Greyhawk then could have left it last month, and we could have been stuck with even more bills and more problems. So that's, unfortunately, in the construction world, and I'm dealing with this now as I'm building, 2 commercial buildings right now.
So Greyhawk is the oversight, people we asked to do oversight, basically.
And I think they've gotten things completed in a timely manner since they've been.
I think if you look at this project compared to other municipal or civic projects of this size and scope, I think it'd be fair to say that this project was as problem-free as it's going to get. Certainly, it wasn't problem-free altogether, but the problems that we've come across have not been so spectacular that I'm sure Rob has experienced on many other jobs. The other thing I feel like I need to point out, because this happened actually, Stacy and Chris were like current members of council, on council when we finished the design stage of this project. And there was some criticism because the township appointed Greyhawk to serve as a consultant during the design stage. And that there was a feeling that Reagan Design Group should have been doing that on their own. And I can tell you, and this is not a criticism of Reagan Design Group, but I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt, and I believe that the members of the Town Hall Task Force would agree 100% to this, Greyhawk's involvement at that time during that stage saved the township probably in excess of millions of dollars in terms of the value engineering they did, because they're not architects looking to have their project on their website and all the bells and whistles. They're looking at getting, they were the real, I guess, guardians of the township's interest in this project. And I tend to agree with Stacy in that should the library board not come through, which I can't imagine that they wouldn't, I'm a voting member, I can assure you that I will be lobbying hard for the township side on this. But if the library, for whatever reason, didn't come through, that Greyhawk would be left out in the cold when without them, we would have spent far more than the $18,000 that this resolution is asking us to spend right now.
We have a library board meeting tomorrow.
Wednesday. And no more than 2 members of council could come to that meeting. And I know how all of you think.
I won't be there.
It may not be a bad idea for a member or 2 of council to come with this. I mean, I could certainly carry the board, but I also am a board member of the library, so to have some council may not be a bad idea.
What time's the meeting?
7 o'clock.
So, again, we have a motion.
I would suggest that this would be a valuable thing for us to do, because we need to honor a contract that we said we would go through with, and we have all said that the performance is good with Greyhawk, and we know that by percentage standards. I myself in Cherry Hill recently, within the last few years, built a very large building. I was one of the task force that built a very large building, and our overruns were much higher than this. I think this is a good example of oversight as done correctly as construction managers. And so I move 117-2014.
Is there a second?
just want to add that I disagree with you a little bit, Greg, that we're not really, we didn't actually ever approve this contract amendment. So we're not dishonoring the contract by not passing the amendment. That being said, I think at this point, we do need to see this project through to the end. Greg Hawk has been exemplary. But at the same time, if we pass this, we do need to use all of our leverage at our disposal to ensure that the library is subsidizing their own mistake. Because it's not right that the taxpayers have had to take on all of the burden when the township did what they were supposed to do. So I guess I'm straddling the opinions here that I agree that they should be paying for their mistake, but at this point, I think we need to move forward with this.
Yeah, I think you put everything very succinctly and accurately together there. I mean, it's, once innings now become something to look forward to.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll second. Okay, second. All right. Patty, roll call?
Yes. Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Garwood?
No.
Mr. Napolitano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jordan?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to minutes, we have none. So next will be approval of expenditures. Any comment or can I have a motion to adopt?
You know,
And remember, Tom's in Italy.
To review the expenditures.
Okay. Can we, is that something
We only need 3 people to pass it.
it's majority?
Yeah.
I'll abstain because
Simple
I did
majority.
not.
Okay. Let's have a motion to adopt the expenditures or any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Abstain.
And Deputy Mayor Jordan?
Yes. Okay, now moving to comments from the public. Mr. Begg, did you want to let us know any more about the sound system that you're concerned with? Wanted to make sure you heard me.
Edward Begg, 209 Barrett Drive. I didn't intend to speak, but get to the sound. Consider moving the chairs, the equivalent of 3, 4, 5 aisles closer. On the just discussed item, speaking first of all from prior, former professional experience, with my pleasure at the time, good experience, to be very closely associated with the nation's space program. So I've been to the moon vicariously 9 times. In another association with a weather satellite program, which I was there 3 years, and a 100-minute orbit. I've been circumnavigating the Earth roughly 15,000 times. So I've had, and I'm associated with the business end of, the technology and all the wonderful, outstanding engineering talent I was fortunate to work with. But that's just so, where I came from. And believe me, you guys got a good deal with Greyhawk. The other point, I am disturbed, and you should be concerned about it also, that in relation to the library, there's, at least I got, maybe it's just an interpretation of them versus us. I was, prior to this meeting, always had understood that the library was part of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Okay, any closing comments by council?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something I forgot at the beginning. Sustainable Morristown has moved ahead, so we believe that we're going to pretty easily get the bronze certification for the second year in a row, and with a little help from maybe the town officials, we might be able to get the silver certification according to Dave Hess.
I'll make that phone call. She laughed like she didn't want to give you any, she didn't want to take any credit. All right, Mr. Garwood.
Well, I was supposed to be emceeing the concert up on Main Street at the Community House on Wednesday night, so I need a volunteer now, because I'm going to be busy with at the library meeting. Other than that, I think, the grants that we applied for tonight, as Greg just said, it's going to move us a long way in some sustainability efforts. I think our bicycle pathways are going to be greatly enhanced with this, and I thank you guys for voting it in. Other than that, I have nothing else to say, but thank you. Have a good night. Hold on. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to touch on, you briefly brought up that the mayor and I have reached out to the Burlington Bridge Commission to seek their help in securing grants for a number of projects that have been identified by the Linola Advisory Commission. I anticipate they will be coming at some point once we've nailed some more things down to discuss that with us, but it's a really positive thing. We're hoping we can get a lot done without much or any cost to the taxpayers, so expect more on that in the future. Thanks for coming.
Thanks everyone for being here, and I guess we will see you on the July 7th. It's our next meeting. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.